Welcome back to part 2 of our 2019 PJ equipment trailer. Now in part 1, this trailer is brand new. We made some modifications and got it prepped so I could start using it. Now that I've had it for about a year and a half, it's time to modify some of those modifications, make some new modifications, use some of the tips you guys sent me, and let you know what I think about this trailer and what I've done to it. If you haven't seen the first video, the link's up there. It'll get you caught up because we're going to build on some of the stuff we did in that video. So our first modification is going to be enhancing one of our old modifications. These are lights I put underneath the back of the trailer to help for loading at night. Makes it a lot easier to see. They also make really good reverse lights. It's kind of a pain to get out of the truck, turn them on every time, so we're going to hook them up so that they go on when I put the truck in reverse. So it's not too difficult. Our 7-pin plug has reverse lights that come from the truck. So we just need to connect that to our lights. Although there is a catch. Because these lights are also our floodlights that can be powered on through a switch, I need to put a diode in it. And the reason I need to do that is if the truck is running and in park and I power up the lights and it backfeeds the power to the truck, it's going to upset the computer. So to avoid that, we're going to put a diode in there. Basically, all a diode is a check valve for current. It allows the current to go in one direction and not in the other. Now, this is just a mini fuse size diode. Comes from my years of parting out Grand Ams. And I just bought a mini fuse holder. So it's pretty simple. I just throw it in there and connect it in line. So if I lost you on how a diode works, we have a little experiment here. So we'll power it up. And because our diode is facing, allowing current to only go this way, it doesn't power our test light. Turn it around. Now our test light works. Then the other way. Still completing a circuit, but this little guy is stopping it. That's it. So the first thing we're going to have to do is take our switch plate off so we can access the wires underneath, which is the supply for our lights in the back. I could have spliced in anywhere along the circuit, but putting it in here allows me to not disturb any of the wiring all the way back to the trailer, and will prevent problems with bad connections in the future. So we just got a little splitter we can clip on there, turns one spade terminal into two. Now we're going to run our wires back down to our junction block up in the front. Pull the cover off our junction block. There we go, we got our diode all in there, spliced in. Now put our cover back on. Tighten down our switch panel. See if we got everything right. And there you go, see the reflection on the toolbox. Lights are working. So now we're on to everybody's favorite modification, my method of charging the vehicles that are on my trailer. So we're going to drill a hole in the back of our toolbox. We'll install our little plug. Now we'll wire in our plug, connect it to our trailer battery, which is also connected to the truck. I did put a junction block in here when I installed everything the first time. So it's got a bunch of lugs on it where I can install any wires that use a constant power from here on out. So we're just going to pick one of those and wire our plug right to that. I also put a stud in that I could ground everything else to. So everything's grounded to it, our winch, all of our lights, and now this. So now that everything's wired up, test it out, make sure it works. Our test light lights, I guess it works. So I made the rest of our harness that plugs into our port that we just put on our toolbox. It was made out of a harness for an aftermarket accessory that I had laying around. So it has an extra fuse in it. It's really not necessary, but it was there, so I just figured I'd use it. I put some eyelets at the end, and I'm sure a lot of people will say alligator clips are much faster, and they're right, they are, but they also fall off much easier. That was the first version I did of this. I had alligator clips on there, and a couple miles down the road, they were falling off. So now, I find a place to put them, hook them up to the alternator or the battery itself, screw them in, and I got a nice secure connection that'll last the entire trip. It takes a little longer, but I'd rather know that it's charging the entire time than guessing or checking at every stop, which could be 6 hours in between. We're also going to clean up this mess. So a lot of this stuff is what I had left over from my old trailer. I just kind of threw it in this one. Stuff we don't need. We got come alongs that we used to use before we had our winch. So some of the stuff won't be going back in there. We had a jack that we used to use on our old trailer, which isn't strong enough to lift this trailer if it's loaded. So I got a new bottle jack. Now it's time to cut our pieces for our project. We use the trailer as a workbench. Now we're going to tack everything up. And we'll test fit it in case we have to take it apart. We don't want to weld the whole thing. Cut our next piece. We're going to have to put it in sections in order to get it in there. If we build the whole thing, it'll never slide in. So now we're going to round off all of our edges in the grinding wheel. And then we'll clean out the burrs from where we cut it off. We'll do that on every piece we cut. Don't worry, you don't have to watch it all. You get the idea. Now we'll tack these pieces together. Now we're going to cut the ends off. We need a little access to get our jack in there. So we'll cut these little triangles off and allow the jack to fit in there. Now we can't get this thing over to the grinding wheel, so we'll just smooth it out with a die grinder. Now we're going to use some of our scraps to put on the bottom. This way we have something to drill through so we can mount our dividers. So this is about the only grinding I'm going to do on this whole project, just because it needs to fit flat against the bottom of the toolbox. The rest of the welds, not really concerned about, but I do need it to fit flush here, so we're going to grind all these down. We don't want anything to go to waste. We're even going to use those little triangles we cut off. Recycle everything. Little Greta would be proud. Now we can weld up everything after we test fit it. Got a little carried away, welded too much, warped it a little bit, but it'll still fit. I was in a hurry, it was getting late. Alright, I gotta clean it. Can't put anything back together without it being clean now. I hope you clean freaks are happy. I'm going to slide this in there. It's kind of a tight fit. So we'll put our bolts through the bottom. I drilled some holes, bolted down. I ran the bolts from the bottom up, and they're pretty long. You'll see why in a second. Now we can put our second piece in. Bolt it to our first piece. I sent these to the painter. He painted them up for me. Now we can put our jack in there. Here's the reason we left the long bolts pointing up, so the jack handles could rest on them. Now we'll put our tie downs in. I generally use 4 tie downs on each car, but I carry 6 just in case one of them happens to break or something. So I got 2 spares. So we got our 2 spares back there, and we'll put our other ones in our individual slots. And we got our axle straps for when we can't get our mini J hooks or our T hooks in anything. We'll put these axle straps over here to kind of insulate the jack, keep it in there tight. Make sure the lid closes. Now we keep our R, T, and J clusters and some chains in case I need a little bit longer reach. And everything else is stuff that over the last year I haven't used, so it's not making it back in. So I got a set of D-rings that go in the stake pockets. Just drop them in. Slide the pin in, cotter pin, and I can move them to any one of the pockets. And then the tie downs just clip on there instead of going around the edge. Gives me a lot more versatility, easier on the tie downs. But I don't like leaving them on there because they might disappear when there's nothing tied to it and the trailer's parked. So I like to put them in the toolbox. We're going to make a bracket that we can store all these in our toolbox. So now we're going to cut all our pieces. Rest in peace, camera lens. Been a very expensive project. Turns out glass and sparks don't get along. But it looks cool. Alright, now that we got everything all cut, we can weld it all together. It's got some clamps holding it all together. I really need a brake, but since I don't have one, we made our own. Clamped it down to the trailer with a piece of steel over it. So we got our nice 90-degree angle in there. Now we'll cut off the excess and weld it onto our little rack. So now we got our bracket all painted up, or our rack, whatever you want to call it. Time to set it in here, if I can remember how to do it. So the harder it is to get in there, the better it stays. So I did make it so that I could get it in there, but it's not easy. Once it's in there, it's not going anywhere. So now we'll drop our pins in there. Now we can put our stake pocket D-rings in. They just fit right down in the slots. There you go. We got our remote in a Pelican case. Make sure it stays nice and dry. And the wiring harness, we can charge whatever vehicle we have on the back. Now we're on to our next project. Making sure our trailer stays our trailer. So we're hacking up an old trailer hitch here. Now we're going to drill some holes in it. Put the ball in. Put our little trailer hitch piece in there. Set it down on the other hitch. Push everything together. Tack it up. Raise it back up so we can get our little contraption back out of here. We'll finish welding up the rest of it on the floor. I threw enough sparks at the dirt ollie for now. So we'll weld up each side. Flip it over. Weld the other side. Then we'll weld the front and the back. In case you didn't follow, here's how my little anti-theft device works. We just put our pin in here, and it's got a lock on it. Now you can't hook anything up to our trailer. I know it's not perfect. There's about 100 different ways I could think to get through this. If somebody really wants a trailer, you're not going to stop them. This will just slow them down. Maybe annoy them enough that they won't steal my trailer. But it didn't cost me anything. The ball came from leftover parts from our dirt ollie flagpole. This was an old trailer hitch that I just hacked up, and the lock is the one I use on the truck when I'm pulling the trailer to hold the receiver in. So I pull the receiver off the truck when I'm done pulling the trailer, throw it on here, throw the receiver in the truck. Hopefully when I come back, everything will still be there. If not, it's insured. So one of the other things I did in the last video was I painted our deck. And I used deck paint. It's got a little bit of sand in it to give me a little bit of traction when I'm driving cars up and down. It's held up pretty well, except for where the tires go. I can't really blame the paint. It's made for foot traffic, not vehicle traffic. And I did drag a few vehicles on and off the trailer, and the tires didn't roll, so that might not have helped things. But as far as everywhere else, it's held up pretty well. So I think in the summertime, when this dries out, I'll just recoat it again and see if I can make it last another year or so. It's easy and cheap. Staining it would probably be the way I would go in the future, but that's after I change these deck boards a couple years down the road. So I did have a few comments trying to point out what everyone thought was a design flaw, because when I put the battery in, I put it in before the toolbox. But as a mechanic that constantly complains about engineers that build things that cannot be worked on, I did not make that mistake. So yes, it's easier to put the battery in without the toolbox, but I did design it so I can get to the hole down here, the hole down here, take the two terminals off, and the battery slides right out here when I need to change it. Also, a lot of people seem to think I need a battery box to protect this thing. Well, there's a plate on the front that we welded on there, and it stops right where the bottom of the toolbox starts, up here. The frame rails are on each side protecting the sides of it, and I don't think I'm going to back over anything, so that should be good here. It's made it a year and a half, no problems. So now it's time for an explanation of all of our switches. This is the master kill switch, shuts off power to everything. So we turn it on, everything's powered up. This switch powers up our cigarette lighter and our USBs, and also our volt gauge. Now our volt gauge tells us what the battery is in the trailer, and when it's plugged into the truck and the truck is charging, it'll be higher than just regular battery voltage. So I also have the deck lights. I also have the under deck lights, which are also our reverse lights now. And I have our toolbox lights. There's one in each toolbox. I got some extra ones in case I want to add some more stuff later on. And then I have our circuit breaker for our winch, which I just leave off just in case. Doesn't hurt anything. But when I'm parking it for a long time, just shut everything down. Everything's completely disconnected. The battery won't drain. I did have some recommendations to get a wireless remote for my winch, and it already has one. That's what my little drawings are. So if I want to use the wired remote, there's a switch back here, which is kind of hard to get to because it's in here. So I just flip it over, and if I flip it this way, it's the wireless. The wired one goes right in here, and I keep it just in case something happens to the wireless one. But I've never used anything but the wireless one yet. It's super convenient. So if I hadn't already had it, that would have been a great recommendation. So another tip you guys sent me was some rear stabilizer jacks. And this trailer already came with them. I just didn't have them on when I filmed the video. So now when you back the vehicle off of the trailer, it puts the stress on the jack itself instead of the springs and the hitch up in the front. Makes it a little easier and a little more stable. So it's a good tip, but it came with the trailer, so I didn't need to do it. I just take these off so that they don't disappear when the trailer is sitting somewhere. I leave them in the back of my truck until I need them. Another tip that I got was on the rear ramps. And it was to store them upside down. You guys sent me the tip saying that water collects in here and it'll start to rust out these ramps. And that's true, but what really concerned me was every time I pulled these ramps out, somehow I managed to get soaked with water. It was really annoying. So the simple solution, just flip them upside down when you put it back in the pockets. That way the water can't collect in there, it doesn't rot out, and you stay dry when you take them out. Simple solution, but I didn't think of it, so thanks for that tip. So these removable fenders have actually come in handy quite a few times. Usually when I have wider trucks or aftermarket wheels on them. Taking them off gives you an extra about 2 inches of room on each side. Link's up there if you want to see one of the trucks I did it on. You just pull the lights, unplug them, and there's a bolt on each side of the fender, and they just lift off. Gives you 4 inches of clearance to roll the truck up there, and then just put the fenders back on. The rails down the side are great if you want to load quads. Just put your ramps on there and drive them up sideways. Get mine 3 or 4 of them up here. In addition to giving you more places to tie down than just the stake pockets if you need them. So after having my trailer for 1.5 years and 20,000 miles, what do I think of it? It's been a fantastic trailer. I did have a couple problems with rims splitting. It was a manufacturer defect, just a hairline crack right in the center. Must have been a bad casting, I don't know. PJ warrantied it, didn't cost me a penny. So I can't blame them. Things happen, and they took care of it. As far as the rest of the trailer, the quality is definitely one of the highest out there, and it's held up quite well. I do take care of it, but it is a work trailer, so scratches happen. If you don't touch them up, they will start to rust. So I usually try, if I can, to touch them up as soon as possible. So if you want my recommendation, definitely buy a PJ trailer. There are a couple other good brands out there, but I think I'm gonna stick with PJ. And no, they're not paying me to say this. As far as all the modifications I've made, I wouldn't change any of them. They've all been very helpful. I did have a lot of people that said I should put a solar panel to charge the battery on my trailer. And when I used to leave my truck and trailer connected all the time, that would have been an advantage to charge my truck when it was sitting. But now that I have my other trailer, I switch back and forth a lot. The truck doesn't stay attached to this trailer all the time. So it's just sitting. It charges up while I'm driving, I park it, and it's disconnected from everything. So the battery is gonna stay full. It doesn't need to be maintained. There's nothing drawing on it. So the solar panel was kind of unnecessary at this time. I might put it on later, but for right now, I'm just gonna leave it. So like this video if you found it interesting, share it if you think somebody else might, subscribe to see what else I have coming up. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.